So I told you guys in the last video we were going to do one last Halloween video, and this is going to be something different. So this is more of a list of 10 horror movies that we thought might have slipped under your radar in the last 10 years. So yeah, we got that coming up very soon, so stay tuned.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
I'm a boy. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another I'd Popcorn for That video. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And this time, like I said, we're doing something different. So, list real quick of 10 movies in no particular order from the last 10 years that scared the pants off us, or we just thought were really well written, and we thought you might have missed them. So, you know, if you're into movies and have been for a long time, these kind of suggestion videos, you kind of get the same 10, 20 movies over and over again. So if you think, movies that you get suggested all the time, we're going to try really hard not to put any of them on this list. So you're not, even stuff like Hereditary, Midsummer, It Follows, The Babadook, those kind of things, if you've been watching horror movies for a while, they're not going to show up here. You already know about them. So, I'm gonna kick it over to you to start on that. Before we do, though, I want to thank everybody for the new followers, the more people watching than usual. It's been really cool to watch things grow, and we really appreciate you guys and your commenting out there. So on this one, definitely, there's a lot of things to talk about. So get down in the comments below, comment, maybe give us a list that you think we haven't seen these movies before, or throw out some suggestions, or just comment on the videos, the movies that we're talking about here. But yeah, let's get a conversation going down there, because it is the day before Halloween as I record this. It'll probably be Halloween Day if you're seeing this. But yeah, it's last minute to watch some horror movies. So, but yeah, let's get started with you. So what's your first movie on this list?
My first movie is, I believe it was a Shudder original called The Apology. It's more of a thriller than a horror, a little bit of a slow burn, but I think it's worth a watch. It's basically takes place over one night, like the night before Christmas. This woman's getting ready to have her family over the next day and stuff. She gets a visitor that's like a surprise in town. Nobody knows he's going to be there. But it's all based around her daughter went missing about 20 years ago, and she's never really gotten over it. She's struggled with alcoholism, and she's kind of beat that a little bit. He comes over one night, seemingly just to say he's in town. Nobody knows. It's like a snowstorm outside. He couldn't get in where he was supposed to go, so he goes there. But then he kind of reveals some information about how her daughter went missing, and it kind of just goes from there and gets a little wild.
So you don't know at first how he's tied into all this, or that he is at all, and then things are starting to unravel as you go along, right?
It's like her ex-brother-in-law is coming in town for Christmas. Nobody knows he's gonna be there, but then he brings to light some stuff.
Yeah, I have not seen this. I'll have to check that out on Shudder. Is this the one? I'm sure it'll be obvious if you're watching this video, but is this the one that has Skylar from Breaking Bad in it?
Yeah, she is the star character. It has Janine Garofalo too, in like a smaller role, but she's in it because it's one of the movies that like it takes place in this one house for the whole movie basically, and it's just like over one night. Yeah,
I do tend to like those kind of movies though. So so my first one is very recent actually. I think this is 2021. But it's called Speak No Evil. This is definitely one you might only want to watch once. This film follows a Danish family who meet and quickly befriend a Dutch family while on vacation, and they ultimately travel to spend some time with them at their house on an invitation. And things go from like charming at first, it's nice, there's nice chemistry there, to just painfully awkward quickly, and you're not going to believe where it all culminates. It's definitely not your traditional horror movie, but it's very effective psychologically. It's very bleak. It hit home for me because you can see this almost as a cautionary tale about how far down into the abyss you can let yourself be dragged if you just try to please others all the time out of politeness. So I love this movie, but it's a weird recommendation because it will ruin your night, but hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, I mean I've seen this one, and it's like it's not a tough watch, but there's sometimes where you're just like, get out of there, you don't need to be there anymore, and they just keep staying.
Yeah, the awkwardness gets just so painful because things are so, there's such a rawness there with this new relationship, and they just keep politing their way through all of it. So I don't want to give any more than that away, but that's a crazy movie, and everybody that I've heard that has seen it has kind of the same reaction where it's like, oof, that is don't watch this in a bad mood,
Mm.
What else you got? What's your next one?
So my next one is Gretel and Hansel, which is the retelling of the Grimm Brothers Grimm original story, but it's taken in a new way. Instead of the witch kind of hunting the children or tricking them into living with her, she kind of adopts them a little bit. Like they're lost in the woods. I think they've lost their parents to some plague or something like that,
Mm.
and she lets them into the home, and it's kind of like real creepy, dark cinematography. And she takes Gretel kind of under her wing and starts teaching her some spells and stuff, and doesn't have a lot to do with the boy. He's kind of like wandering through the house a lot,
So
and
it's
then
almost like the witch or something like that.
I haven't seen The Witch
Turned to the
actually.
dark arts. Oh, okay, okay.
But yeah, she's teaching her some spells and stuff, and like it kind of leads to a sacrificial ceremony towards the end of the movie, and some really crazy imagery there.
Okay. I've been meaning to watch that for the longest time. Yeah, I've heard that was good. Who's the Do you remember the director? You might have already said it.
Director's Oz Perkins.
Sounds familiar.
Blackcoat's Daughter. I Am the Pretty Thing That
Oh,
Lives in the Wall. Which that movie?
it was The Black Coast Daughter, which I have not seen, but I've heard that that was really good. I think Red Letter Media did a video in the past about how much they loved The Black Coast Daughter, and I kept meaning to make that one I watch soon.
Might have to watch
But
that
that
soon.
was the one.
Okay.
So my next one is Saint Maud. So Saint Maud is an A24 horror movie. It is a little bit, a little bit on the artsy side. I hate the term elevated horror, but I'll use it this one time and just say if you like things that tend to be given that title, this might be up your alley. But it follows our main character Maud not long after a very dramatic and abrupt conversion, kind of in the wake of trauma, as she's beginning her job as a full-time live-in caretaker for, like, a hospice caretaker essentially for a woman named Amanda who is an atheist. And Amanda starts to show signs through their friendship and everything of a potential conversion, and Maud sees this as a clear sign to her that she's been placed here with divine purpose. And this movie really flies in some shocking and unpredictable and occasionally very horrific directions as a result. You'll have to see it to find out, but yeah, there's some really cool imagery here that stuck in my mind for a long time. I think the ending shot is like burned into your mind forever when you watch this, and it deals with like mental health and what's real and what's not, what's mental illness and what's not, and by the end, I think it's clear, but it plays some tricks with you here because when you're watching a movie, you don't know how much they're asking you to believe or not. So yeah, really interesting movie. Stuck with me for a while, and I think that's a little bit of a sleeper that a lot of people kind of missed in the A24 catalog. So
Yeah,
wanted to
that's one
shout
I
that
need
out.
to check out too.
Hmm.
So this one, I think quite a few people might have seen this. I think it's one of the bigger ones, but I think it's still maybe it went under the radar for a lot of people. It's called Ganam Haunted Asylum. It's a Korean film where it kind of starts off with these two guys in this like rundown, decrepit, insane asylum.
Hmm.
And there's like this one door they can't get open, but then they start hearing stuff from inside of it, and it kind of bursts open, and then I think that's all you get from those two guys, really. And then a team of ghost hunters, I think it's like 6 people set up. They're going to do a live broadcast of ghost hunting in the asylum. So there's like one guy who's at the control center and a bunch of them go inside, and they've set it up basically to where they have all the scares that are going to be there, and it's all faked. And they do like this little ritual, and then they go to the same room in the intensive care unit. I think it's room 402, where it's like a door that just won't open for anybody. And then eventually it does open, and things get a little wild for them. There's like the actual ghosts come out, and this one's like really creepy. I think it's done really well. The scares are really good, and just like the ghostly apparitions and stuff, really interesting.
Man, and especially like as much as I've been liking Korean horror movies recently, this is one I got to see if you're recommending it because
Yeah.
yeah, Korean horror just works really well for me for some reason. But that's one I've missed. Is it like kind of a found footage kind of thing? Like a lot of it's through handheld cameras and stuff, or?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a found footage because it's the live broadcast, but they're
Hmm.
live broadcasting on YouTube. So it is kind of it's like not, like real low quality, kind of like Blair Witch was. It's, higher quality, but they've got like, cameras set up throughout the asylum. So you'll see like a room, it'll switch over to that, or they're walking around and
I could see that being super effective. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So let's see. My next one is the Autopsy of Jane Doe. This is almost. I feel like a lot of people have heard about this, but if you've missed it, and I think I wish I looked it up, but the director has gone on to do kind of bigger things since then. But this is one not to miss, and I think it shows that he's got some directing chops here. It's a supernatural horror. It stars Brian Cox and Emile Hirsch, and they are father and son coroners. And one night they're working late to try to identify a Jane Doe for the police department. But the evening really starts to unravel when spooky things begin to seemingly like prevent them from learning more. And the ending of this film was just really well executed, and it gives off super creepy vibes because of our main character being stuck in a building alone with tons of dead bodies. Very effective for me. If the idea of being alone in a stormy, like the person who
Medical
does the
examiner?
investigate, yeah, like a medical examiner or something like that. Just being trapped in there alone with a dead body, and creepy things start to happen, and you just keep looking back at the dead body, waiting for something to move or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes some interesting directions along the way, and I highly recommend that. And I think I can't remember who, but some horror movie director was asked some of his favorite movies of the horror movies of the last 10, 20 years, and he put this, I think, at the top of the list. It might have been Stephen King. Somebody put this really high on a list, and I was like, wow, man, if they're recommending it,
Yeah.
What do you got next?
So mine was I think this is a Netflix original movie as well, and I don't think it got the best ratings, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I think people should give it a watch. It's called The Strays. It takes place in England. It's kind of like this affluent woman and her family. It's following her, and she's a black woman, but she's trying to be like as white as possible. Like I think she's puts a lot of makeup on and stuff.
Okay.
And you find out she kind of has this haunted past, and I think she's like a principal at this school that her kids are at. And there's a couple of people that show up that start to befriend her kids and kind of like move in on her life a little bit, and just start popping up at events and stuff. And you kind of find out a little bit of a spoiler that she is related to them in some way, and they've kind of come back to get revenge and see what happened for her to leave their lives and everything. And it gets a little funny game-ish.
Okay.
It's pretty.
Yeah, I gotta love that movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been on this list if I didn't think most people have heard about it. But
Right.
Funny
Yeah.
Games is a great one. So this, yeah, straight to Netflix kind of thing here.
hmm
I don't think I even knew that this was any kind of horror or psychological thriller or anything like that before you mentioned it. But yeah, I got to see that.
Yeah. It just kind of popped up one day. I saw it and gave it a watch and enjoyed it.
Better than you thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next one is Resurrection, and this came out very recently, 2022. It's one of the reasons that I discovered my love for Rebecca Hall's acting. So I'll pretty much watch anything she's in now. But I think this is the first one I watched, and very close to coming on this list was The Night House, which I'll give the briefest shout out to. But you should also watch The Night House, and that is probably a more traditional horror movie. But this one I connected with this more. So it's a psychological thriller in which a woman who is trying to reinvent her life after extreme past trauma is unexpectedly thrown back into a situation she thought she'd left behind years ago. And when Tim Roth's character reinserts himself into her life. And it's hard to be vague here, but I need to be vague on this one and just say when the horror element of this psychological film kicks in, I loved it, but there's also elements of body horror here. Seeing someone you think is forever part of your past right in front of you unexpectedly, especially when that person's been a source for so much trauma. It just taps into, I think, a very relatable fear for so many people and culminates in an extremely insane ending that you cannot see coming. Yeah, I could say more about it, but I think this is one you have to experience and not know a whole lot about what's going on. But Tim Roth's acting is amazing. As usual, he's a really intimidating character. And again, Rebecca Hall is just amazing in everything. So yeah, so watch that if you can. I think it's streaming somewhere.
I have to check
Shudder
that
maybe.
out.
I think it's on Shudder.
Yeah.
What do you got next?
So this is my last one. And I just caught this one on like Showtime during the day one day and decided to put it on, and it was pretty decent. It's called No One Gets Out Alive. So it follows this girl. She's an undocumented immigrant, and she moves into like this boarding house in Cleveland that's run by these two brothers who there's definitely something a little off about them. One of them, I believe, is like on the spectrum or something, and is just something real creepy about him. But it's the house, and there's a bunch of other girls that live in there that are undocumented as well, because these guys kind of don't ask questions if you're paying rent.
Slumlords.
Yeah. Some of the girls start going missing, and you're kind of wondering what's going on if the brothers are doing some stuff, and then you start seeing some spirits, and she finds like these weird artifacts hidden throughout the house, and she starts having like some visions and stuff as well, some like predetermination and stuff. It seems like, at least.
Oh, like predestination.
Predestination, there we go, yeah. And then there's like this basement that she finds with this strange stone box, then a room she's not supposed, in the basement she's not supposed to go into. It's got a lot, because it's not just like haunting and psychological thriller and girls missing. It gets a little Lovecraftian as well, which is pretty cool.
I like to hear that word thrown around.
Yeah.
Anybody notable on this, or pretty like unnamed, or not well-known cast here?
Yeah, I mean, not a super well-known cast. There is one actor that he's been in a lot of stuff, and he's pretty recognizable. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
We'll put it.
Yeah, I think his name is Mark Menchaca, and he's very recognizable. Like, he's been in Ozark. He is one of the fathers of Ruth Langmore. He was just in The Creator, which we watched. But he's a recognizable person. Other than that, I don't really recognize anybody from the cast.
So I just have one left. My last one is Infinity Pool. So Brendan Cronenberg, if you don't know, the son of David Cronenberg, he places in a fictional island nation with a very unusual, strange concept of punishment for crime, and even stranger exceptions for tourists. So we're viewing this through the eyes of Alexander Skarsgård's character, James, who I promise you, it will be echoing. His name will be echoing in your head in the voice of Mia Goth for at least a day after this. But he's there vacationing with his wife, M, played by Cleopatra Coleman, and things take an extremely strange turn and take a psychological, sexually horrifying, body horror type turn once they link up with another couple, played by Mia Goth as Gabby, her husband. And once a line is crossed, it's time to get lost in the most insane criminal justice system ever, and you'll have a very hard time guessing where this is going to end. Yeah, I can't say a whole lot more. There's cloning involved, but strange movie. It runs a little long. It's very unusual, and there's some imagery here that's going to bother some people. So I would probably watch Possessor actually first if you haven't, and see how you feel about this guy's style. It's pretty extreme, and that one's a taste enough that you could tell if you're going to be able to enjoy this too. Not everybody's cup of tea, but
do you think do you think he's more extreme than his father, or on the same level?
I do,
Okay.
but it's he's extreme in his time. His father was extreme for his time. Maybe equal levels.
Yeah,
in
that's
the context
true. Different
of
technology.
the movies that they're making. But he really goes at least, especially in this one, in the sexual direction. And there's some insane imagery that I never thought. I mean, I would think this movie would be like NC-17. So just prepare yourself for that kind of thing. If that's a trigger kind of thing for you, I wouldn't step a foot near this movie and watch Possessor instead. Possessor's just like extreme violence, but this is some really trippy sexual situations, and you get lost in the atmosphere of this movie too. And so it did run long, but I got lost enough in it and interested enough in the uniqueness of it. And this is one too that it's almost better after you've watched it, just thinking about the kind of food for thought that it gives you to chew on. Like, what if there was this country like this? But yeah, I don't want to say more than that and give away what exactly is going on if you don't know already. It's worth checking out. It's a bizarre little film. So yeah, so maybe throw out some honorable mentions here. If you got anything you want to just mention briefly, we won't go into the plots or anything on any of these, but what are some things you would have put on your list if we'd done more than 10?
Yeah, another one I had, which I would have included, but I'm pretty sure a good amount of people saw it, was The Void. It's another like
I have not.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. I didn't want to put it on because most of the movies I feel like people haven't seen on my list, and I think The Void was like a really big horror movie for Netflix, and it's like very Lovecraftian occultist type movie where these people are
even
like,
the trailer. I mean, not the trailer, but the poster for this
Right.
gives you Lovecraft vibes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out.
I kind of already mentioned a couple throughout this, the Night House and Possessor. I would say this is another one too. Like you said, I think most people have heard about this, but just on the off chance you haven't, one of Mike Flanagan's first horror projects before The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, all these things that he's kind of become so well known for now, this Netflix series. Before all that was Gerald's Game, which is like a retelling of a Stephen King short story. And I know a lot of people have seen that, but if you haven't seen that, I would check that out. It's really interesting kind of kind of like a bottle movie, like we've talked about before, where everything kind of takes place in the same room.
Hmm.
We do leave that room eventually, and a lot of people weren't super satisfied with the ending of this, and I get it, but I still think it's an enjoyable watch. And if you like Mike Flanagan stuff, you would you'd be missing out not to check this out.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch any Stephen King adaptation. He's one of my favorite authors.
Have you seen Gerald's Game?
Yeah, I have. I liked it.
Hate the ending or love the ending or somewhere in between?
A little in between. I thought it's okay.
I'm sure that is did you read the short story?
I have not read that short story yet.
I would say it probably is just taken from the actual ending of that short story, but yeah, not for everybody. But the writing and storytelling throughout it is so good, and the actors are great on it. So
Yeah.
anything else that was coming to mind for you that you almost put on here?
Uh, I do have one more that I think people might have seen. It's another adaptation, but I think it's a Joe Hill and Stephen King that collaboration that they worked on together called In the Tall Grass.
I've heard of this. Yeah,
Yeah, and came out
notable
on.
actor, right?
I don't remember. Let me see.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
Tom something, but anyway, yeah.
But yeah, I'd say check that out if you're a fan of Stephen King and Joe Hill.
So yeah, that's our list. I will also kind of supplement this. I'm going to put a link below to my letterbox list of essentially every horror movie that I've loved ever. So far, this channel is part experiment to watch as many of the classics as possible. So there's probably things missing from this, and I hate to say it, it probably means I haven't seen them, or I didn't love them as much as you. Maybe, who knows? But feel free to put whatever kind of list you want to make in here. Some of your favorite horror movies, or some that might slip under the radar. Check out that list below. I'll have a link to my whole letterbox channel and the list we use to pull from for these videos too. But if you like this kind of thing, definitely hit like below. That would help us out greatly. If you haven't subscribed yet, we would love to have you as a subscriber. We're growing, but we're trying to get to at least 100 by the end of the year, maybe more. Who
I
knows?
think it's pretty doable. I mean, we're at 77 right now, so I think
Feels doable.
we
Let's
appreciate
just make it 500.
Yeah.
But yeah, we appreciate all the love we've been getting so far, all the comments and likes and everything. And we're trying to do at least 2 of these videos every week. So come back for more. Watch some of our back catalog if you want to, especially the When Evil Lurks video. We just had The Wailing come out recently, so we've been doing a lot of horror movies recently. And I'll tell you one last thing you could even throw in. What are your thoughts? We're getting more views on horror movies? Should we go in the horror movie direction? We do like those a lot, but I kind of want to watch a lot more than just horror too. So
Yeah.
give us your 2 cents if you want. And yeah, hit subscribe, share this with your friends. Thanks for watching as always, and we'll see you in the next one, guys.
We'll see ya.